Kia ora and welcome to the Niggly Newscast. I'm the Diggity Doodah, Dr. Peptoy Panther, Mr. Slippers here with my Doosra gloves on to deliver a bit of a cricketing yarn. We have the Blackcaps T20 series against England that started yesterday, so the first of 5 T20 international games. And we've also got Plunket Shield teams to quickly wrap up as well. Not too much podcasting action during the week because we're just battlers and real life gets in the way sometimes. So a bit late on the Plunket Shield teams notes that I always deliver, and we've already got a result. The Wellington Firebirds have already defeated Canterbury. That game started, I think, on Tuesday. There hasn't been any play for the Otago Volts and Auckland Aces game, and we're approaching. This is the start of day 4 for Northern Districts versus Central District Stags, so I won't worry too much about those results. I'll just update you with team changes and any funky team selection notes with regards to Plunket Shield cricket in the back end of this episode. What we're going to talk about now is that Blackcaps T20 series versus England. I'm just going to wrap up that first T20 game, which the Blackcaps lost, and it just had a vibe from the Blackcaps of just being a bit down buzz. There wasn't quite the same skill, execution, intensity that is required. England looked pretty impressive. They bowled first, and they offered quite a nice range of bowling plans and execution, which I like to see. I like to see bowling groups who can execute their plans, come out and tighten up Colin Munro and assess the conditions and offer those changes of pace that were quite effective on that Hagley Oval pitch. And they restricted to the Blackcaps to 153 for 5 off the 20 overs, and then England kind of cruised to victory, reaching the target, just losing 3 wickets in the 18th over. Best performers for the Blackcaps, Ross Taylor once again, 44 of 35 in the middle order. You also had 30s with good strike rates from Tim Seifert and Daryl Mitchell. With the ball, it was all about Mitchell Santner, 3 wickets at 5.75 RPO in his 4 overs, and no other Blackcaps bowler took a wicket. Just some non kind of serious notes here. It was a bit strange having Mike Hesson and Craig McMillan in the commentary box. Like, that was a bit weird, having 2 former coaches talking to the players as well, like on the mics, and just being around the commentary team. They were in the Blackcaps setup. Like, Craig McMillan was in the setup a matter of months ago. Mike Hesson not too far removed either. It's just a weird situation that shows how small the kind of cricketing community in Aotearoa is. I just found it weird to have those guys in the commentary box, and I found the whole kind of Sky Sports coverage a bit corny, and as it tends to be, it's like they had the dude with the social media, like, what's trending on social media, bro? Who cares? Who cares what's happening on social media? They, like, in general, everyone talks shit about what happens on social media, like as if it isn't serious in any way, and then they report about what's happening on social media. So, like, who cares what's happening on social media? We don't need updates on what is trending, on who the people are talking about. Fuck all that shit. That is corny. But yeah, so that was the Sky Sports coverage. None of the major commentators were there, like guys like Mark Richardson, Scott Styris, Craig Cumming. None of those dudes were part of the commentary team, to best of my knowledge, in that game. So just interested to see what happens there with regards to the cricketing package that Sky Sport offers, again with that context of Spark Sport coming into the picture. Another interesting little note here, Chris Jordan has played a fair amount of cricket with the Northern Districts Knights, so this popped into my head just watching him bowl to Tim Seifert, for example, or Daryl Mitchell. These are dudes who have played T20 cricket with the Knights together, because Chris Jordan tends to pop up a fair amount during the Super Smash, so little interesting mix there. And what else do we have? It was just a weird vibe from the Blackcaps. There was a bit of frustration, just moving fields around and certain things happening. They were very quick to express their frustration, and it wasn't like a cool, calm, composed Blackcaps team. And then you had Colin Munro doing a couple of bat flips during his innings, and there was one when he didn't even try catch his bat again, and then I think it was Bumble David Lloyd. He was like, Colin Munro just threw his bat, and there was like no big deal, no dramas, no issues, but it was just funny and weird to see Colin Munro again expressing his emotions in that way, which was a low-key factor of the awkwardness last summer with regards to the ODI opening position. Colin Munro just has this vibe of like, it's just a groggy kind of vibe, and that's reflected in his performances. Like, I think in Sri Lanka, the 3-game series against Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka after the World Cup T20 cricket, Colin Munro, I believe the stat is he averaged 8.33. Let me just double check this. In that series, through 3 games. So it's 8.33, and this is his first year averaging below 33. He's averaging 22.5 this year, 2019, and the last 3 years, 2018, 2017, 2016, he's averaged over 33. So Colin Munro's in a bit of a slump at the moment, and that's where I revert back to his little weird antics. I think perhaps Colin Munro might be feeling the pressure, but I have to go back to being positive here. It's just a situation to watch out for. Colin Munro, in my eyes, his standing as a opener in the ODI team or even in the T20 team isn't for certain, because I've got that context of this year being a dip compared to other T20 international years for Colin Munro, as well as, or including, a rather underwhelming series against Sri Lanka, and then everyone has opinions about ODI Colin Munro as well. So just watch out for Colin Munro through this series. I have bowlers who are in that bracket as well, so I'll talk about those in a second, but just mad respect to Ross Taylor, bro. This dude, when he was batting in this game, it was weird because, like, well, for starters, it's weird because you got Mike Hesson commentating, and we go back to that situation where it was the Mike Hesson, Brendan McCullum kind of takeover, and Ross Taylor was basically fucked over. And now you got Mike Hesson commentating about Ross Taylor, just a weird situation. But when Ross Taylor was batting, New Zealand, like, they had just lost Tim Seifert, I think, 93 for 4 in the 14th over. Ross Taylor comes to the crease, and the commentators, Mike Hesson, all those dudes, they're talking about, they need a boundary. One dude's got to hit. You can't have a rotator and a hitter. You got to have 2 hitters. They need to be hitting. They need to be hitting those boundaries. And no, that's Ross. Like, that's why it was weird coming from Hesson and even someone like Craig McMillan, because they are aware. Mike Hesson gave Ross Taylor this role in the T20 team eventually after fucking him over in regards to T20 cricket. He gave Ross Taylor this role in the middle order. Craig McMillan was part of the coaching staff who, throughout this tenure, so they know that Ross Taylor's role in the middle order is to bring the innings together. Ross Taylor's the glue man of the T20 batting lineup, and when he came to the crease, he just worked ones, he got a couple of twos, he manipulated the ball around, moved the ball around, and together with Daryl Mitchell, they just set up the innings to get to 153. Like, it wasn't an easy batting pitch. This was a pitch where variations, change-ups, and just good skill made life difficult for the batsmen. So it wasn't an easy pitch to score runs on. Ross Taylor came to the crease and set up the innings. This is his job in the T20 team. This is why he bats number 5, because he comes in. The top order can go hard. Like, I think the Blackcaps T20 batting lineup, this is all with regards to T20 cricket here, I reckon the Blackcaps batting lineup is a little top heavy. So after Daryl Mitchell, like, I'm not relying on Mitchell, Santner, Scott Kugelheim, Tim Southey to hit boundaries for me. These guys can hit boundaries, but they're not the best sluggers in the world, let's be honest. And guys like Guptill, Munro, Seifert, de Granholm, they are among the best sluggers in the world. So that's why I say the top heavy nature of this Blackcaps team is they go hard at the start, and then Ross Taylor's there in the middle order to rebuild the innings if you are like 93 for 4. And that's what Ross Taylor does. He just comes to the crease, sets himself up, singles, twos, the odd boundary. He hit the most fours of any Blackcaps batsman, 3 fours and a 6, decent strike rate of 125, and he salvaged the innings. Ross Taylor brought the innings together, and then along with Mitchell, they upped the ante at the end, and they took the Blackcaps to a competitive 153. So Ross Taylor, I just want to define Ross Taylor's role in this team from my perspective. It is to be the glue man of the innings. If he comes in late in the innings, he can smack boundaries everywhere. That's all good. But Ross Taylor, given how aggressive and risky, I guess, the top order is, having Ross Taylor coming in during the middle stages gives you a nice cushion. You can bat freely up top, and then if you do lose wickets, Ross Taylor's the perfect man to rebuild the innings, because what does he do in ODI cricket? He bats number 4, and he bats supremely through the middle stages, manipulating the field, moving the ball around, can access the boundary kind of whenever he wants to, so he can release the pressure. That's Ross Taylor's beautiful craft. So just watch out for Ross Taylor and that role. Nice innings from Daryl Mitchell. One thing that stands out about Daryl Mitchell's batting is how straight he plays. He hit that 6 down the ground. Beautiful, just extended, lofted drive. And he's just got a skill set that looks comfortable. Like Tim Seifert and Daryl Mitchell look very comfortable. Colin Munro does not look comfortable, which is just a simple, plain way of expressing that. Like there's a bunch of stats that I write about, so you can check out the blog edition of this Blackcaps T20 series against England. I wrapped up game 1, all sorts of stats in there, but just simply put, Daryl Mitchell and Tim Seifert look really comfortable in this arena. Colin Munro right now does not look comfortable. With the ball, just kind of boring. Like there's no like Mitchell Santner took wickets, but I think some of those wickets were just kind of, we need to hit a boundary, let's attack Santner. And Santner's got changes of pace, he's got flight variations, he's got that arm ball, which is just a left arm in swinger to a right-handed batsman. So hitting Mitchell Santner is not going to be easy because he doesn't offer too many bad balls. And every ball's kind of coming at you slightly different. So that's Mitchell Santner good, but Southey, Ferguson, Kuggeleijn no wickets, and Ish Sodhi no wickets. Kuggeleijn is in a bit of a spot after a decent series against Sri Lanka. He took 3 wickets, and I think all 3 of those wickets came in one game, so just remember that, because outside of that Sri Lanka series, I think he's played 8 games this season, 3 games in Sri Lanka, 3 wickets at 25.33. Through the rest of his 5 games, which have all been played in New Zealand for Scott Kuggeleijn, he's averaging 82. So for Scott Kuggeleijn to come up against England, 3 overs at 11.66 runs per over in New Zealand isn't surprising. And Scott Kuggeleijn has to find a way to impact the game, because the way I feel about Scott Kuggeleijn, you look at Lockie Ferguson is a naturally quick bowler who can get in swing to right-handers. He's a bit shorter, he's a bit skiddier, he's a bit whippier, so he's got like a package that can translate into international cricket. Scott Kuggeleijn's package, on the other hand, the way I view it, he's got the pace. So he bowls low 140s, 140, 142-ish, or high 130s, which can trouble domestic batsmen. That's a really awkward style for domestic batsmen, especially when you're Scott Kuggeleijn and you're bowling a heavy ball, you're hustle-bustle kind of bowler. That's very difficult for domestic batsmen. which is why Scott Kugelheim has forced his way into this Blackcaps team, because he's had success at the domestic level. That style of bowling, though, steaming in, bowling 140, and kind of bowling back of a length is kind of a stock ball in my opinion. That is meat and drink for international batsmen. So, in a very general sense, I'm not convinced that Scott Kugelheim's bowling style easily transitions or translates to international cricket, and I would also throw out there's a difference between Kugelheim's style and Ferguson's style. Ferguson seems to have a lot more control, and he's a lot more skillful, and he's just naturally... everything he does is just naturally smooth. Scott Kugelheim's hustle, bustle, he's all action, and international batsmen aren't all that buzzed about 140 Ks. That's all good. If you bowl short 140 Ks, you can still pull that for 6. So I'm just cautious about Scott Kugelheim here, and like, this is a dude who's being selected for the Blackcaps T20 team, and overall he's averaging 48. So there's not much substance to his T20 international record, and yeah, it is what it is. Ish Sodhi's also in a bit of a spot. Now, no one's talking about Colin Munro's struggles in T20 cricket. No one's talking about Scott Kugelheim's, whether he's actually decent international T20 option, and no one's talking about Ish Sodhi's struggles in T20 cricket as well, probably just because they don't know. Like, they're not aware of these kind of trends that are emerging in this Blackcaps T20 team. Ish Sodhi, 38 runs off his 4 overs, 9.5 runs per over in this game, no wickets. And Ish Sodhi didn't take a wicket in the last Plunket Shield game either, which is interesting factor there. No spinner is taking many wickets, in Plunket Shield at the moment. So just keep that in mind. Like, Todd Astl's all over the show as well. And yeah, let me get back on track here. The Ish Sodhi in Sri Lanka in that T20 series wasn't fantastic. I'll just pull up his record in Sri Lanka, because he played a bunch of those games, but wasn't overly effective in what should be favourable conditions. He played 2 games, took 1 wicket at an average of 57. So the last T20 international series, Ish Sodhi averaged 57, which was only a few months ago. And then also notable here, so this period where Ish Sodhi and Mitchell Santner were the dominant T20 bowlers in the world, it was amazing. Between 2015 and 2017. 2015, Ish Sodhi averaged 14. 2016, Ish Sodhi averaged 13. 2017, Ish Sodhi averaged 14. So that's 3 straight years Ish Sodhi averaged well below 20. Last year, he averaged 37, and this year he's averaging 30. So there's a bit of a dip in Ish Sodhi's T20 international production and wicket-taking threats that we probably need to pay attention to, in the same way that we need to pay attention to Colin Munro. And I'm just throwing this up because it is context for what happens next. Like, this is going to be a long summer in terms of assessing the T20 international team, and it's going to be up and down, a roller coaster. So I don't want to get too dramatic here. I'm just intrigued and interested in what happens. Like, is Colin Munro going to bounce back? Is Colin Munro going to demand consistent selection in the Blackcaps T20 team? Because at the moment he's doing little to demand selection. And there are other batsmen who probably deserve an opportunity. Same goes for Ish Sodhi. Is Ish Sodhi going to bounce back in a hearty fashion against England here and be a wicket-taking threat for the Blackcaps? Because he didn't look overly threatening in Game 1. Scott Kugelheim didn't look overly threatening. And Tim Southee didn't look overly threatening as well. Tim Southee's got a surprisingly fantastic... I think he's averaging 25 this year in T20 cricket. So Tim Southee's doing a decent job. But yeah, the Blackcaps bowling attack was just kind of ragged, bit all over the show, and couldn't contain England or build any kind of pressure on the English team. Batting wise, you got to keep an eye on Colin Munro in the next few games. Martin Guptill, just sometimes you just get fucked over early. That's what happened to Guppy. And then with the ball, just watch out for Ishodi, how he's trending at the moment. I think you're going to see a change between Scott Kugelheim and Jimmy Neesham. I'd bring in Jimmy Neesham and bolster that batting lineup because you got a bit more lower order hitting, and then Jimmy Neesham can bowl overs as well. No Daryl Mitchell or Colin de Grandhomme bowling in this game, so you lose the perceived bowling of Kugelheim. Jimmy Neesham's a capable bowler. He can bowl a full 4 overs, as can Daryl Mitchell, as can Colin de Grandhomme. So if you replace Scott Kugelheim with Jimmy Neesham, you're not going to lose anything bowling wise, because you've also got other bowling options, and you're going to bolster the batting lineup. So that would be the change I would make for game 2. And I'm still a bit wary about why Jimmy Neesham hasn't been given, he didn't go to Sri Lanka as part of the T20 team after a good World Cup, and now he hasn't played this first game, so just a weird situation there. Rightio, we'll quickly wiggle over to the Plunket Shield, and I'll just offer a few notes on team selection. So the Wellington Firebirds did beat Canterbury, and team selection, there was no Rachin Ravindra was out for this game. Ben Sears was also out. Hamish Bennett was out. Ollie Newton was out, and Jimmy Neesham was out. So Jimmy Neesham, Blackcaps duty. And then that's your whole seam attack. Ben Sears, Hamish Bennett, and Ollie Newton. Frontline seamers from last week, and no Ravindra up top. Wellington just brought in Andrew Fletcher, a very solid opener, who caught fire in the Ford Trophy last year, another Kiwi African. He was opening for the Wellington Firebirds, replacing Ravindra. And then you had Peter Younghusband came in, leggy all-rounder. He came in and he replaced a seamer, I think, for Wellington Firebirds. So they brought in another spinner to partner Malcolm Knopfel. Remember, there's no Jeetan Patel for the Firebirds. He's with the England team. And then Ian McPeak, he's kind of next in line for the Firebirds when the Firebirds are full strength. Very handy medium pacer. He came in, as well as I think it's Michael Snedden from the famed kind of Kiwi cricketing whānau, the Snedden whānau. He played his first class game. And Jamie Gibson from Wairarapa, he played his second first class game coming in. He's a seam bowler as well. So Snedden and Gibson coming in as kind of inexperienced players for the Firebirds. We've seen a lot of McPeak before. We've seen a fair amount of Younghusband, and Fletcher emerged on the scene last summer. So just generally, that's some great, not great because we don't know what they do, but decent, solid seam bowling depth for the Firebirds, considering no Ben Sears, no Hamish Bennett, no Ollie Newton, and no Jimmy Neesham. They just bring in 3 other seamers, as you do. Canterbury, I do not believe they made a change to their team, who lost to Wellington, so they were as per. And then we had the Northern Districts versus Central District Stags game. Central Districts have been ravaged by injuries, so just off the top of my head, there's no Adam Milne, there's no Doug Bracewell, there's no Ben Wheeler, and a couple others, I think. No Will Young is in that Central District Stags group. They are battling injury at the moment. Blair Tickner went up to the Blackcaps T20 team, I believe. He could come into that Blackcaps T20 11 as well if you want, like a point of difference, hostile fast bowler. He could have come in for Scott Kugelheim. I would rather Jimmy Neesham just to bolster the batting lineup. Ross Taylor's gone to the Blackcaps as well. In comes Tom Bruce. He came in to bat number 5, I believe, for the Central District Stags, so he's always in the first 11, so good to have Tom Bruce back. And then you've got Ray Toole and Jared Mackay in the seam bowling ranks. So again, Central Stags have basically been pillaged of their seam bowling stocks, and then they come out and unleash Ray Tool. I think one of these dudes is a Kiwi African as well, and I think it might be Ray Tool, who looked like a fairly hostile left arm seam bowler. Like he bowls a bit of heat, so watch out for Ray Tool. Yeah, left armer. Reasonably quick. There was a dismissal that stands out. I think it was against Bocock or maybe a BJ Watling, where Ray Tool kind of bowled short and hurried them up. So Ray Tool has come out of nowhere as a reasonably interesting quick seam bowler, left armer. He is another Kiwi African as well, so shout out to them. And then you've also got Jared Mackay, who is a right arm seamer, I think, for the Central District Stags. So the Stags have been digging into their seam bowling stocks to ensure that they can have a seam attack. And you still had Seth Rance anchoring the attack. You still had Ajaz Patel offering the spin. Still have Willem Luddick offering all-round abilities as well. So just with a couple new seam bowlers, it's a slightly weaker Stags team. Northern Districts, obviously a fair amount of rotation in their squad considering the Blackcaps. No Tim Seifert, no Kane Williamson, no Dean Brownlee. I think he got injured in the last game. No Mitchell Santner, no Daryl Mitchell, no Isodi, no Tim Southey. In come the second stringers, or the first stringers for the domestic cricket, because those Blackcaps don't really play too often. Henry Cooper opening, Barrett Popley coming into number 3, Joe Carter coming into number 4. So that's basically a whole new batting lineup for the Knights. Peter Bocock, coming in to the middle order. Joseph Walker operating as the main spinner, and then James Baker and Brett Randall coming in to the seam bowling department. Interesting here is BJ Watling still operating as the wicketkeeper. Bocock is usually a wicketkeeper batsman, kind of similar to Tim Seifert in style and just shape and stature, but BJ Watling still the wicketkeeper, obviously preparing for Test cricket with the Blackcaps. So lots of change in that Knights team, and that's what you would expect. This is the kind of lineup you would expect when the Knights are impacted by Blackcaps selection. Guys like Cooper, Popley, Carter, Bocock, Walker, these dudes tend to come in. Baker's a very solid domestic performer as well. So Northern District's Knights just showing off their depth and their solid whānau of first-class cricketers. There's no play between Otago Volts and Auckland Aces. This is the end of day 3, so just starting day 4 today, so who knows what's going to happen there. To the best of my knowledge, no massive changes for the Otago Volts. Maybe Mark Craig coming in. Again, we don't have a playing 11, so I don't know what any changes would be, but Mark Craig is listed here, and Michael Rippon looks like another one coming into this Otago Volts. Otherwise, their batting lineup's unchanged, and that's good. That's good for them just to have a solid, consistent batting lineup. The Auckland Aces fairly consistent as well, with Ben Lister and Graham Biggin coming into the squad, neither of whom would probably play in the first 11. So we'll see if there's any play down there on day 4, and after this round of Plunket Shield cricket, we'll wrap it up with the wildcard and a full Plunket Shield debrief episode of the Nichecast. We'll write about it as well, so go read about it on the Nichecast. And if you're listening this far, thank you, cheer to you. And yeah, support us on Patreon if you do enjoy what we're doing at the Nichecast. That's the best way to support us. It's straight up the guts, direct to us. And as we build our resources and settle into just beautiful abundance, we will definitely hook you up with all sorts of goodies on Patreon, and it's an open door of communication on Patreon as well. So the best way to support us is via Patreon, and thank you for listening. Enjoy your beautiful weekend in Aotearoa, an amazing place to be. What a beautiful time to be alive. Life is beautiful, you're beautiful. Kia kaha, cheer.